Sophie parked the car, engine sputtering to a stop in the overgrown driveway. Blackwood Manor loomed, a Gothic silhouette against the stormy twilight. Years had passed, yet the house seemed to have aged decades. She felt a shiver crawl up her spine. The house remembered her. She remembered the laughter, the warmth, the love that once filled these halls. Now only a bone-chilling emptiness greeted her. The air itself felt heavy, laden with unspoken words and stifled cries. Her hand trembled as she reached for the rusted iron gate. The hinges groaned, a mournful sound that echoed through the stillness. With each step towards the house, Sophie felt the shadows lengthen, reaching out like grasping claws. A sense of dread settled over her, a suffocating premonition that she couldn't shake off. She was home, but it felt more like a return to a nightmare. Inside, dust motes danced in the pale moonlight filtering through grimy windows. The air hung thick with the scent of decay and forgotten memories. Sophie as S1, Lucas. Sophie found Lucas in the parlour, his face etched with a weary sadness. Lucas as S2. Sophie, you're here. Claire sat by the cold fireplace, her eyes red-rimmed, her gaze distant. Claire as S3, we need to talk. Their reunion was a sombre affair. Gone was the easy camaraderie of their childhood. In its place stood a wall of shared grief and unspoken accusations. They were strangers, bound together by blood and the weight of their inheritance. Lucas as S2. We should sell the house, it's time to move on. Claire as S3. No, we can't. There's unfinished business. We need to understand what happened to them. Sophie, caught in the middle, felt a growing unease. Something wasn't right. Days turned into a blur of unpacking. The once lively home, now a maze of cardboard boxes and scattered memories. Each item they touched seemed to whisper stories of the past, as they sorted through the remnants of their parents' lives. It was in the attic, amidst a jumble of forgotten toys and dusty trunks, that Sophie stumbled upon a hidden compartment in the floorboards. The air was thick with dust, and the dim light barely illuminated the treasures hidden within. Inside lay a leather-bound diary, its pages brittle with age, the cover worn from years of handling. It seemed to pulse with a life of its own, as if eager to share its secrets. Sophie as S1. This belonged to Mother. Her voice trembled with a mix of awe and fear, the weight of the discovery pressing down on her. The diary belonged to their mother, Amelia. The name, written in elegant script, brought back a flood of memories, both sweet and bitter. Sophie's hands trembled as she read her mother's elegant script, each word a brushstroke painting a chilling portrait of their family's past. The ink seemed to shimmer as if the words were alive, telling a story that had been buried for decades. Amelia wrote of strange rituals, of ceremonies conducted in the dead of night, shrouded in secrecy and fear. She wrote of an ancient pact made with a shadowy entity, a deal sealed with sacrifices. The word sacrifices seemed to leap off the page, its meaning heavy and ominous, and a darkness that threatened to consume them all. Sophie's blood ran cold as she realized the gravity of her mother's words. The room seemed to close in around her, the shadows growing longer and more menacing. The words seemed to writhe on the page, whispering of a terrifying truth she couldn't comprehend. It was as if the diary itself was alive, its secrets too dark to be contained by mere paper and ink. Suddenly the house felt colder, the shadows more menacing. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind seemed to carry a sinister undertone. Their mother's words were a portal, pulling them deeper into a darkness they couldn't escape. It was a darkness that had been lurking in the corners of their lives, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The diary was not just a record of the past, but a key to understanding the present, and perhaps a warning for the future. Sleep offered no escape. The night was a battleground, a place where peace was a distant memory and rest was a fleeting dream. Sophie was plagued by vivid nightmares. Each night she found herself trapped in a labyrinth of terror, her mind conjuring horrors that felt all too real.
I saw her, our mother, bathed in this otherworldly light, performing strange rituals in the dead of night. It was as if she was communicating with something beyond our understanding, something ancient and powerful.
She heard whispers, chilling and disembodied, echoing through the darkened corridors of the house. These whispers seemed to carry secrets, secrets that were never meant for human ears. The line between dreams and reality blurred. Sophie could no longer tell where her nightmares ended and her waking life began. It was as if the house itself was a living entity, feeding off her fear and confusion.
I began to see fleeting shadows, hear things moving in the night. It was like the house was alive, its very walls whispering and shifting in the darkness.
Her siblings too seemed changed. The once lively and cheerful household was now shrouded in an oppressive gloom. Lucas grew increasingly agitated, his usual calm replaced by a nervous energy. He paced the halls, muttering to himself, his eyes darting to every shadow.
I can't shake this feeling. Something's wrong. It's like the house is watching us, waiting for something.
Claire, on the other hand, seemed strangely transfixed, drawn to the house's shadows like a moth to a flame. She would stand for hours, staring into the darkness, as if searching for answers hidden within the void.
It's like the house is calling to me, like it wants me to understand something. There's a message here, buried in the walls, in the very foundation of this place.
A sense of dread permeated the house, a suffocating presence that seemed to feed off their fear. The air was thick with tension, every creak and groan of the old house amplifying their anxiety. Sophie knew with a certainty that chilled her to the bone that they were not alone. There was something else in the house, something that watched and waited. Something dark and ancient had awakened within the walls of Blackwood Manor, and it was hungry. It had been dormant for centuries, but now it stirred, its presence growing stronger with each passing night. The family knew they had to uncover the secrets of Blackwood Manor to confront the darkness that had taken hold of their home. Together they would face the nightmares and echoes that haunted them, determined to reclaim their lives from the shadows. They began their search, delving into the history of the house, uncovering old journals and forgotten records. Each discovery brought them closer to the truth, but also deeper into the darkness that surrounded them. With each step they felt the weight of the house's history pressing down on them, but they pressed on, driven by a need to understand and to break free from the grip of the ancient evil that had awakened. In the end, it was their unity and determination that would be their greatest strength. Together, they would face the darkness, and together, they would find a way to banish the nightmares and echoes that haunted Blackwood Manor.
We need to leave this house. It's not safe. Every creak, every shadow feels like a threat. We can't stay here any longer.
Lucas insisted, his voice tight with urgency. His eyes darted around the room, as if expecting something to leap out from the darkness at any moment. He paced the length of the dusty library, his agitation palpable. The old wooden floorboards creaked under his weight, adding to the eerie atmosphere. Sophie watched him, her heart heavy with a growing sense of dread. She could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating, making it hard to breathe.
Don't be ridiculous. We can't leave now, not when we're so close to understanding. We've come too far to turn back now.
Claire scoffed, her eyes gleaming with an unnerving intensity. She seemed almost possessed by her determination to uncover the truth. She clutched the diary to her chest, her knuckles white. The old leather-bound book seemed to hold all the answers she sought, and she wasn't about to let it go. The tension between her siblings was a living thing, crackling in the air between them. It was as if the very walls of the house were feeding off their discord.
What are we going to do? I can't stand seeing you both like this. We need to find a way to come together, to make a decision that we can all live with.
Sophie felt torn, caught in the crossfire of their opposing desires. She wanted to support both of her siblings, but their conflicting goals made it impossible. Lucas, grounded and practical, craved escape from the nightmare. He believed that leaving was their only chance at survival. Claire, driven by a morbid curiosity, seemed determined to unravel the secrets of their family's past, no matter the cost. She was convinced that the answers lay within the pages of the diary. Sophie, caught in the middle, felt a growing sense of unease. She didn't know which path to choose, and the weight of the decision was crushing her. She loved her siblings, but their conflicting desires threatened to tear their already fragile bond apart. The arguments were becoming more frequent, more intense, and she feared they would never find common ground. She knew they needed to present a united front, if they were to survive the horrors that awaited them within the walls of Blackwood Manor. The house seemed to have a life of its own, feeding off their fear and discord. They had to find a way to come together, to face whatever was lurking in the shadows as a family. Only then could they hope to escape the nightmare that had become their reality. Time was running out. Every second they spent arguing was a second closer to whatever fate awaited them. They needed to make a decision, and they needed to make it now. Lucas began packing, his movements quick and decisive. He was determined to leave, to get his sisters to safety, even if it meant dragging them out of the house by force. Claire, on the other hand, was resolute in her decision to stay. She believed that the answers they sought were within their grasp, and she wasn't about to let fear drive her away. Sophie stood in the middle, her heart torn between her love for her siblings and her own growing fear. She knew that whatever decision they made, it would change their lives forever. In the end, they would have to face the horrors of Blackwood Manor together, as a family. Only by standing united could they hope to survive the darkness that threatened to consume them